Joaquin Castro. Congressman, I want to go to you first on this. we ended that long speechifying that I just did with the precursor. There is the House insanity that awaits America on the subject of immigration reform. And I look at what is happening in the Senate, and to some degree there is this widespread acknowledgement that political kabuki theater is part of immigration reform's passage. But really, the infighting has reached a semi-pitched level, and I wonder how optimistic or pessimistic that makes you feel over there in the lower chamber.
Well, you know, certainly the 82-15 vote to move forward on debating the bill was very promising. But you're right. From day to day now, we're getting conflicting signals about where the Republican Party will go. To be clear, the President and Democrats want to accomplish comprehensive immigration reform in 2013, and we believe that the nation wants us to do that also. And I even think that there's enough Republicans to get this done, to join with Democrats and get it done. But certainly amendments like the Cornyn Amendment don't help. I think that's a poison pill. Getting 100% operational control, even of our prisons, has not proven possible over the years. And so I think it's more of his attempt to secure his re-election in Texas in 2014. Like many Republicans, he's concerned about being primaried from the right. And so I'm hoping that enough Republicans will see past that and join with Democrats in supporting comprehensive reform.
But Congressman, isn't it sort of like watching your parents eat dessert for dinner? It's like if people like John Cornyn and Mitch McConnell, who have, you know, in other cases been deal makers and sort of our elder statesmen here, if they're doing this in the upper chamber, doesn't that then give license to all the completely crazy people in the raucous caucus of House Republicans to do the very same thing once there's a bill in the House?
Sure. There's no question that as big as an adventure as it is in the Senate, getting it to the House will be an even bigger one. On the Judiciary Committee, for example, you have some of the most extreme folks on the issue of immigration. And so it will be tough. But I do think that the momentum that will occur if the Senate passes this bill will be incredible, and that will make sure that the Speaker doesn't employ the Hastert rule and that we get a full vote on the House floor.
I want to open this up to our panel in New York, and Sam, lots of questions hanging over immigration reform. It is almost like it's sort of like my Powerball chances. One day I really think it's going to happen. The next day it's very clear that it won't.
You think you're going to win the Powerball?
Some days, yes.
Okay.
Some days, yes. Maybe
good,
that
good
just
for you.
gives you a sense of my own personal delusion.
Yeah.
But really, I mean,
it does change. The perception of this, the possibilities of this legislation change all the time. The vote that we talked about, the cloture vote, was promising, but then keep in mind that gun control got through the first cloture vote,
exactly.
And of course failed on that. My understanding is that at some point down the road, lawmakers in the Gang of Eight will have to do something additional on border security if they want this thing to get the type of support that they want it to get, which is not a squeaker 60 vote, but something more. The question is, when do you give that border security measure a pass? Is it in the Senate, or is it when it goes to the House and they're going to demand even more concessions? And so I think from just a tactical standpoint, there are all those questions hanging out there about when do you give in a little bit more, because you don't want to give in too much and lose from your base as well.
But I mean, Michael, still, I have to question the obsession with border security at a time when net migration from Mexico to the U.S. is zero. There is 631 miles of fencing. There are countless.
Zero, but it's
no, it's zero. In the last year, it was zero.
No one crossed the border.
Net migration.
Oh, net migration.
And there are drones over the border. Right. There is fencing. There's a lot that is being done to secure the border. The president, much to the chagrin of many immigration reform activists, has deported a record number of immigrants from this country. And so how much is enough? I mean, 100% situational awareness, I really do think, is like asking every tooth to be brushed.
Well, I think 100% situational awareness is, you know, the dream. That's the ultimate.
A different kind of.
It's a different kind, right? Different kind of approach. But Republicans, remember, we've been in this room before. We did this in 1986, where we second-guessed on border security. We played down the significance of border security. We made a lot of promises about border security, and nothing was ever effectively put in place. And here we are now, 20 years later, with the same situation we had 20-plus years ago. I think that's really what the driver is for a lot of conservatives, in the House especially, is to make sure that we do not lose sight of the fact that we know we're not going to deport 12 million people. We know we're going to have to deal with the human element of this, but we also must deal with the logistical, very mundane, very not sexy aspects of making sure we're not in this room again 20 years from now.
But Congressman, I want to ask you, because we talk about the rhetoric around this, and we also talk about winning over the Hispanic vote or making inroads as the Republican Party needs to. And I feel like the Republican Party gets into a lot of trouble when they start talking about the border, because it brings back this dichotomy of us versus them. And the more sort of extreme measures that are proposed, the more it sort of is hurtful to a dialogue that the Republicans are trying to sort of soften, if you will.
No, I think that's right. You know, a lot of the rhetoric is very incendiary, and it makes a lot of Hispanic Americans, many of whom are first or second or third generation Americans, feel like they're not part of America. They're not accepted as part of the American family. And so I don't think they've done themselves any favors in that way. I also think that what you see is Republicans trying to attack the president from the right in saying that he hasn't secured the border when we know that he has, but also trying to attack him from the left by saying that he's deported more people than any president. So they're essentially trying to have it both ways, and I think all of that just gets jumbled up and their message gets lost.
Well, and John Meacham, Paul Ryan yesterday was talking about Irish immigration in the 1850s and talking about the American idea of the melting pot. And then at the same time, the House is passing a measure to block President Obama's executive order to allow dreamers, the children of illegal children of immigrants who came here as children, to stay in the country. So on one hand, they're trying to sort of come forward with this kinder, softer message, one that is accepting of those who are here, perhaps illegally. They're part of the American economy. They're part of our DNA. And then on the other hand, legislatively, is doing something that totally undermines that.
Well, one thing we should remember about the Irish is it was not the smoothest. No Irish need apply. I mean, one of the driving dramas of the Kennedy family was to avenge that, to show the WASPs that they could rule. And so the fear of the other has been a significant factor in American life since the 1790s, when the Alien and Sedition Acts were passed for fear that there were aliens in the midst of the country who were going to sell the country out to the French or to the British or to whomever. This is a perennial problem. It flares up. It's like a virus.
It's like a 17-year cicada.
It's a long, but the good thing, the most important thing is that the country has always become stronger. This is just a clinical, historical point. The country has always become stronger the wider it's opened its arms.
I'm still concerned we're going to be sold out to the French, for what it's worth.
Well, you should be.
Okay.
Because you're probably the leading edge.
But the difference between the Irish migration, and I am not a great student of history. My memory only goes back to the late 60s, basically. Not because I was born then, but just...
18
anyway,
or 17?
18.
Yeah.
But the issue is that there is, Maggie, an electoral reality facing the Republican Party, right? I mean, there is another party, which is, say, the Democrats, that have a pretty much of a win-win situation in terms of this. If the immigration reform does not pass, they will blame Republicans. If it does pass, it is a win for President Obama. And so I think the fire underneath Republican feet is considerably hotter, perhaps, than it was 150 years ago.
No doubt about that. I mean, I do think the caveat to this, and we talked about this, I think, recently, that whether the notion that Hispanic voters were largely what gets talked about in terms of where Republicans need to message better on immigration, especially, that is not necessarily the lead issue that Hispanic voters make their decisions on. They make their decisions on a lot of issues. I do think, though, that it becomes a lot harder for Republicans to get their message across if the perception is we are not listening to immigrants. We are anti-immigrant. This opens the door to being heard. They still have a huge problem, even if this passes.
I have a question for the congressman, and it goes back to the 80s and when they were debating border enforcement then. Technology has moved us very much further down the road here, and my question is, can you envision a future in which we apply, whether it's drone technology, whether it's biometric fingerprinting, whether it's a robust E-Verify program, in which border security, the concept, not the physical border, but the security from illegal immigration, is much less costly than it is conceived of as right now?
Less costly?
Yeah, less costly.
Sure. No, I think that's true. I think, you know, as technology develops and you achieve economies of scale, for example, and other benefits, sure, I think that future is possible. What's interesting about John Cornyn's amendment is that it doesn't really deal much with technology or developing technology. His is kind of this old traditional style boots on the ground border enforcement. And it really is a shame that it doesn't deal more with the